Live from Joe's mom's basement, it's the Stacking Benjamin Show. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and today we're talking about the value of making life hard on yourself with the guy who makes retirement easy. He's the retirement answer man, Roger Whitney. Plus, the woman who's farthest of all of us from retirement age and who makes our life easier just because we know her. Oh, that's barf. Oh, it's just gross. Paula Pant. And finally, the co-host of the Mile High Fi Club, podcast, Carl Jensen. But that's not all. Halfway through the show, I'll share my starry trivia. And now a guy who makes life hard on himself by not staying in the same place for more than 2 weeks. It's Joe Saul-Sehy.
Hey Stackers, happy Friday to you. I am Joe Saul-Sehy, Average Joe Money on Twitter. And what a fun day we've had so far. We haven't even started recording yet. It's going to be, I'm sure, a great hour. So sit back and relax as we meet this cast of characters. Let's start with a woman whose voice you hear here often, just back from Scotland. She just flew in from Scotland, and boy, are her arms tired. Paula Pant is here. How are you?
I am fantastic. Scotland was amazing. I hung out. A lot of the listeners will know Mad Fientist.
Yes.
A friend of all of ours, part of the financial independence community. He lives in Scotland. He lives in Edinburgh. I didn't know this, but he has a son now. He has a 14-month-old named Oliver.
Wow, awesome.
Yeah. So, I got to hang out with him and we drank some scotch and,
you had to. You were contractually obligated. You're in Scotland. You got to drink scotch.
Exactly. When in Rome.
Yes, absolutely.
Or when in Scotland.
And my friend who is my buddy, every time I go to a conference, he's a guy I sit next to who makes sure that I stay awake and take good notes. Roger Whitney is here.
He your conference wife?
He is my conference wife.
Copies my notes. It felt like high school. Nobody's ever copied my notes in high school.
I do. I sit next to the straight A student, the retirement answer man. How are you, Roger?
I am exhausted.
What do you mean you're exhausted?
This is my recoup day because yesterday we finished the RRC Roundup Conference, which we basically hosted a couple hundred Rock Retirement Club members. And it's hard being nice to so many people for 3 or 4 days.
I just like to end that on it's hard being nice. It's so hard for Roger to be nice. I got to ask you, so there's 3 people that are in your Rock Retirement Club who were with us in Bali, and they told me they were going to do something when they got to they were flying directly from Bali to Fort Worth. Did they do what they said they were going to do?
Yes, they wore skirts.
Yes, sarongs.
Yes, they wore. They looked like skirts to me. Sarongs. Okay. Yes, they did. I could say Mark's. Who wore it the best? Kevin Sebesta. Kevin Life and Fire definitely was the one that sported it the most. It looked perfect on him.
Looked absolutely fantastic. I'm sure Kevin
Mark
looks
Crossan
fantastic.
was very uncoordinated. He didn't have animals. He had the wrong animals. He had an ostrich and an elephant. They weren't matched.
Becky Heptig, who is my favorite, who is my co-host on that episode, she must have rocked the sarong.
She looks great in anything.
Yes, absolutely. And the guy who looks great in anything joins us today. He is the co-host of the Mile High Club, the club where you get in I don't know if you guys know how this works. You get in a plane, you get up to a mile high, and you find out you're financially independent. Is that what happens, Carl Jensen?
It is pretty much what happens. And this is amusing, Joe, because you just contacted me about 5 minutes to be on your show. But 10 minutes ago, I was in the shower and I was thinking about you. And
and I'm out.
No. There's a good story behind this. I just completed a brand new shower about 20 minutes ago, and I went in there to test it out because you have to test it out. And I'm like, why isn't the water getting hot? I'm freezing in here. And then I remember, Joe, when you stayed at our house and you had the same problem, and it turned out I hadn't adjusted the valve correctly. I'm like, hey, Joe, how was the shower? You gave it its maiden voyage. And you're like, it was okay, but it didn't get hot. I'm like, oh, yeah, this happened with Joe. So that's why I was thinking about you in the shower, just to be clear.
I'm glad you clarified that story. But it is weird, Carl, because I think about you in the shower all the time, too.
I'm out.
But tell everybody about the Mile High Fi Club. Well, why do I want to keep calling it that? The Mile High Fi Podcast.
Yeah, call it whatever you want. Yeah, we talk about finance sometimes and asparagus and other silly things. We get around to talking about money sometimes too, which is good.
Well, and it's a fabulous show, as is the Retirement Answer Man show, as is Afford Anything, and as will be today because we have all three of you together, Stacking Benjamins. We're going to talk about living a difficult life to make your life easier. What does that mean? We're going to get into it in a second. But Carl, you're the newest member of this show, a guy we've wanted to talk to for a long time, but you've never been on before. So do you know the rules about you being here on the show?
You better explain them to me.
Yeah, let's take a second and do that. Hold on. So rule number one.
I thought the rule was we can't talk about the rules like a fight club. Is that like this or?
Well, we don't usually say it live. I'm glad you said that, but this is another rule that we probably don't mention. Got it?
Yes.
Right. We got Carl Jensen, we got Roger Whitney, Paula Pant, neighbor Doug. Let's get the party started. Today's piece comes to us from Darius. How do you pronounce this? Furrow? You think it's Furrow?
Yeah, Furrow. That seems like it checks out.
Foroux. Darius Furrow is the author, according to his website, of 7 books, including the international bestsellers Think Straight and Do It Today. He says he writes for people who continuously want to become wiser and wealthier. And we're looking at his blog because I found this piece very interesting. The headline, I think, says it all. You don't need to read it to follow along. If you want to, though, head to Stacking Benjamins and the show notes, and you can click on this. But I think we're just going to take inspiration from the title. Do hard things if you want an easy life. Darius begins by saying, the other day, my mom told me about a family member who had a flat tire on her bike. This relative doesn't live an easy life. She had a doctor's appointment. When she pulled out her bike to go there, she discovered the flat. She doesn't have a car. So she ended up walking to the doctor's office. To make it worse, it also started to rain after a few minutes into her walk. She barely made it. I thought, man, I'm lucky. I have an easy life. But then I also thought, I did a lot of hard things to get here. And then he starts walking through how this collection of difficult things led him to this point. But Roger, let's start with you. This seems a little bit like a contradiction, right? Do hard things to live an easy life. What's that all about?
Oh, I actually embrace that concept. One of my favorite books this year was The Comfort Crisis by Michael Easter, which is essentially, we're too comfortable. We need to do hard things because that's where the spice comes to make life worth living. Like I know in our practice, one of the hardest things to counsel clients on is not to rob their children of their problems. And we tend to do that because robbing them of their problems or letting them have an easy life actually sets them up for a harder life.
Wow, that's Carl, you've got 2 kids at home right now. Do you espouse that idea, giving them a hard life?
I do. I make them move rocks around the yard, and they do not approve of the chores I give them like that. The dishwasher is another one. Pretty much any chore is met with a lot of resistance, but I tell them that they will thank me for it later, and they probably won't, but at least I don't have to do the dishes then.
But you hope so. Paula, you've got a kid at home that doesn't grow up. If people are watching on video, walking right behind you. Well, and another one in the turtle tank. But what do you think about the idea of hard life makes your life easy?
I think it absolutely checks out. It's hard tasks make your life easy, whereas easy tasks make your life hard, right? So do hard tasks and your life will become easier because it's by doing the hard tasks that you improve your health, that you improve your wealth, that you improve your relationships, have difficult conversations, things like that. Like hard tasks lead to an easier life in the long term.
He presents that he did some really hard things to get to his easy life now. And I know all of you, and I think you all have pretty cushy lives today. I mean, if we're honest with ourselves, we truly do have pretty cushy lives. But what's a hard thing you did to get to this cushy life? Let's start with you, Carl. What's a difficult thing you did to kind of reach this nirvana you are living in now?
Yeah, so people who follow me know that I do live and flips, which is where you live in a house and fix it up. But 20 years ago, I didn't know how to do much of anything. I was a computer programmer and I wouldn't touch anything house related. And then one day, my kitchen, no, it was my, this all goes back to showers again. I guess that's the theme of my appearance.
Wait, were you in the shower and started dreaming about flipping houses?
Almost. So my shower started leaking and I called the plumber and he didn't show up. And he eventually showed up and he wanted like $150. And then he didn't show up to actually do the repair. So I went to Home Depot, got like $1.50 in washers. And this was when they had these things called libraries. There was no YouTube. I had to get a book from the library to fix this. And I did it. And it wasn't that hard. I'm like, wow, if this little task wasn't that hard, maybe I should try other stuff. So my next job was tile. And then we redid a kitchen. And I've since done all kinds of work, like 9 flips. And that built the core of our nest egg. It's worth about $1.5 million, which we reinvested. And like you said, Joe, our life is glorious now just because that plumber didn't show up that one day. And I went out of my comfort zone and did that hard thing. And my house didn't float away either. I was successful.
The most difficult thing in your life right now is you had Ramit Sethi yell at you.
That was very difficult. I had to go and cry in a corner for about 45 minutes after that.
Yeah, people that don't know, a financial influencer, Ramit Sethi, who's been on the show a few times, has a podcast, and they talk to people about their money stuff. And you and Mindy volunteered to be on that show. And man, he put you in the crusher for a little bit there.
I listened to it, and you didn't even hear the worst parts. He told me I needed therapy, and which is probably true, by the way.
We thought that about you for a long time, Carl.
Is anyone a therapist in the audience? Anyone here on the Stacking Benjamins?
It's the whole reason we had you on, so I could tell you publicly that you need therapy.
I appreciate it.
Roger, what's a tough thing you did to get to where you're at now?
Well, first, I don't think I'd ever let an influencer give me advice. First off, I don't think that's a qualification to give somebody advice or definitely lay into them. So I don't know who this guy is, but I don't. You don't know Ramit? I've heard the name, but I've never read anything, so I'm out on that. For things that I've done that are hard that have helped me set up a better life is, well, obviously the entrepreneurial journey. When I left the evil empire of UBS at the time and started an independent practice, my income went down by 80%. And then while my wife wasn't working, we had hard kids. That was hard, right? We had to sell the house that we had built and we downsized, and, woe is us, but it worked. And then we built that firm up, and then I blew the next firm up and said, I left that firm because I knew where I wanted to go, and everything went down again, and I rebuilt. Every time I have leaned into what felt right, even though it was on the short term uncomfortable, it's always been a huge blessing. So I have a really strong muscle there, which is why I'm so cushy now, I guess, Joe, as you stated.
Was your spouse on board when you're like, hey, I'm going to blow this up and it'll probably blow up our paycheck?
Well, yeah. Well, I said yes. Let's qualify that as yes. It's far enough away because that was 2003. We didn't have the healthiest conversations about money, so I hid a lot of it, and this knows to this day. And that doubled the pain. So that was the unhealthy part of it, because I was a little embarrassed and I was a little frightened, and I hid a lot of that. I've since worked through that, and we're even, there's another very difficult short-term thing, reconciling and cleaning up those big conversations that probably should have been happening. I've had those moments in my marriage, and marriage is totally amazing now as a result of all of that cleanup that we did. So yeah, I love hard things.
Boy, it would have been fun, though, to have you on Ramit's show during that time, watching him rip you.
I need some influencer advice.
Would have been fantastic. Paula, what's a hard thing you did to get to the cushy life you've got today?
Oh, a couple of things. I mean, one is, similar to Carl, I've had many real estate headaches over the years. I've renovated 7 kitchens. So as well as, 20-ish bathrooms. So, presiding over many renovations has been one of them. I think the harder thing, though, has been growing a company, growing Afford Anything, because that, especially being a content company, Joe, as you probably know, in the beginning, you're just like shouting into the void, and you're putting, all of this effort into creating material that you think is good, or you hope, that you put a lot of effort into making it good, and then it goes out into the world and it's
Nothing.
crickets. Yeah,
Zero.
absolute crickets. And you just have to do that again and again and again and again and again, until very slowly audience growth starts to compound.
I worked 3 jobs at the end of college, and early on before I became a financial planner. And I remember one of those jobs was in telemarketing. I remember somebody complaining, and one of the guys sitting next to me was like, "Oh, how horrible! You could be laying concrete right now, which is truly hard. People are hanging up on you on the phone, really." Like, I feel bad that your feelings are getting hurt while there's some guy sweating it out in 95-degree heat, busting his butt, or she's busting her butt. And it actually made me realize, even as a telemarketer, how freaking lucky I had it. Like, even then, I'm like, I'm sitting on my butt, getting my feelings hurt. How lucky am I?
Right.
Because some people truly have it tough. But
Yeah.
it's funny, but Carl, I hear about you and the plumber. I wonder, at the time, did you think I'm gonna laugh about this someday? Like, I'm building a muscle, or was it just what you're doing at that time to get by?
No, I pretty much thought it was horrible. I had no idea how to do this. The one shower in my house was broken, and I smelled worse than normal, and I didn't know what to do. So now, back then, if I would have saw that guy, I would have been angry and yelled at him. But now I'd shake his hand. It was great. I'm so thankful.
Yeah, Roger, at the time, did you think I'm going to look back on this and laugh?
No, in hindsight, I had probably an overabundance of belief in myself and didn't know what I didn't know. I'm glad that I did it, but I wouldn't recommend the way that I did it. In hindsight, I don't think it was a wise pathway to create. I think I could have made life a lot easier for myself.
I do think the one thing, though, Roger, the one thing you have to be, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to have a ton of belief in yourself and where you're headed, though. I mean, because if you don't, especially if you've got employees, nobody can follow you if you're like, well, I hope this works. Like, cross my fingers.
And I think you have to be a real entrepreneur rather than a kind ofpreneur. And I think a lot of people get into the idea of wanting to be an entrepreneur, not realizing that doesn't mean you just get to set up your office and sign the lease and it's not setting up house. It's doing what Carl did and doing all of the really hard stuff. We started off not having any employees to where I was doing all of the paperwork. I was emptying the garbage. I was doing every little thing. And I didn't pay myself for 8 months because we were building cash. Those are the hard things. A lot of us think entrepreneurship is getting into setting up the house part of it, not actually going and doing the dirty work, which is really what you should be able to do. Like with this conference, I ran like 7,000 steps in a 3-room conference center, running around, making sure everything was working as I was getting ready to present and do other things. That's the kind of hardness I think you need to have as an entrepreneur.
Does this have to do a lot, Paula, with goal setting as well?
It does, but goals without habit formation are just dreams. So yes, goal setting is necessary, but not sufficient.
But so what you're saying is build the habits to make you tough.
Yeah, exactly. Because all of these things that we're talking about require consistency. It's not one day of muscling through. It's not one day of toughness. It's getting up every morning at to an alarm and doing the hard work again and again and again and again and again, and just lather, rinse, repeat. So goals, yes, goal setting is fantastic if the goals inform the habits that you create, or conversely, the bad habits that you break.
Carl, you very publicly, talk about that when you became financially independent, and actually just that whole journey. But that habit forming thing, I know some people, they get to the point where I don't need to work tomorrow. And that idea that Paula talks about setting the alarm, getting out of bed every day, like, what was that process like, knowing that I don't have to wake up tomorrow at X amount of time or X certain time? Is it more difficult to build difficult structure into your life when monetarily you don't need to?
I don't think so. I think you just have to know that you have to evolve and change. For example, well, I'll go back and say that normal actions get normal results. So if you want to do anything extraordinary, you're going to have to put yourself through some discomfort. So before I had a job, I was working on houses. Now I still work on houses, but I don't have a job. But now I spend a lot more time at the gym. And if you want to build strength or run a half marathon, which I did, by the way, one of the worst days of my life.
Never, Carl. By the way, I want to get back to that, but I got to tell you that Paula texted me one day and said, "You run for fun?" She ran like 12 steps and was like, "This sucks."
Worst 2 minutes of my life.
She didn't even have to run a half marathon. She knew way before you did how bad it was.
Paula is a lot smarter than me. A friend said, "Hey, why don't we run a half marathon?" Like, sure, that sounds great. I'll download some app. I'll bet running gets easier after you do it for a while. And it turns out it doesn't. It sucks the whole entire time. But anyway, back to your question. I think you just have to learn to evolve, and you get new challenges. Maybe you can let up on it a little bit because you've made it. You've got money. You don't have to work 80, $100 a week at what you're doing. But I still think we all need to push ourselves out of the comfort zone. And I think if you've achieved something crazy and good in life, you can't just turn that off. And I think it would be a mistake to turn it off as well. You got to have new challenges.
Roger, some people listening to this are living that hard existence right now, right? They're in the middle of the crap. They're in the middle of a time when they really need to do hard stuff and they don't have any other choice. Is this a mindset thing to get through it? Like, someday I will laugh about this. Is it what type of encouragement do you give people that are just, they're in the crappy spot right now?
The idea of consistency that Paula mentioned, I have a C on my arm, which is the exponent to a tattoo, which stands for consistency. And it's the superpower.
Can we actually look at the entire tattoo? Because this is really cool.
Whoa.
Yeah. Explain that to us.
So I have a formula on my arm, which is E stands for energy, multiplied by your ability to focus, multiplied by your ability to focus on what's important now, to the power of consistency.
Bring energy and focus to what's important now consistently.
You want to have all of those working together, because if I come with lots of energy, but I can't focus, okay, I'm just running around. If I can focus, but I'm focusing on the wrong things, I'm not going to be productive. And if I only do it when I feel like showing up, I'm not going to have much of a change in the trajectory of my life. So somebody that's going through something hard right now, and it can be financial or otherwise, you got to focus on your energy that's moving, eating, sleeping, because you have to be able to show up, right? And then you have to focus on something to do. And here's what I'd argue is, sometimes we're in the middle of doing things and we're really struggling. You really have to find some space. Am I doing things that are going to compound to a better trajectory? Because it's easy just simply to tread water, right? And that's important to survive, but at some point you're going to have to start doing some things that you can see are going to be moving you in a direction that you want to go. And it's easy just to sit there and tread water and feel manically busy without actually building some long-term momentum. So that would be the counsel, is we've all been there and we'll all go there, because we're never going to be exonerated from any of this stuff, even if we are retired. But be very cognizant of, am I doing some things that can compound for me in a really good way?
You know, that is brilliantly said, but I'm still stuck on the fact that I've put lots of motivational phrases on screensavers and on my bathroom mirror, but I've never thought about putting it on my freaking forearm. So I see it whenever I'm not.
I bet that looks a lot different than the one on his left butt cheek.
He can't see that one quite as well, Doug. Yes. Hey, before we go to the trivia, Doug, I want to bring you into this, because during your early days of your career, you had to do some tough stuff. What's something that was pretty tough that made your life cushy today?
Wow. I did.
You had to watch Carl put the shower together?
toenail trimming at an Oriental spa. No, I don't know. Jeez. I mean, I like a lot of folks, I did those when you're just getting into stuff, there's a lot of jobs that are commission based. I sold knives. I sold sports equipment, and it was just all on your guile, right? On your ability to read people and to read the situation. And there were a lot of days I made no money, whether it was selling, sports equipment or selling knives or other stuff. But man, did I learn a lot. Didn't make any money. Thankfully, it was at a time when I also didn't have a lot of responsibilities, didn't have a family that I had to take care of. And I learned some of those hard lessons then. One lesson that I've not learned yet, it was told to me, I saw it work, but it just didn't become who I am, was when to shut up.
Have you figured that one out yet, Doug?
And here now I'm making a living by talking too much. But yeah, no, I mean, and I'm sure there's a corollary here between this and how you plan here. I guess this is the corollary, is we talk often, Joe, about when you make a plan, if you're on track to reach your goals, then that allows you a lot of flexibility to do it. Like, it's okay to just stop and use that money for something else, for some joy or something like that. And I guess it's that ability to know when it's okay to stop. And I'll try to get that back to the when to shut up, because when I was selling, this is when I was working at a ski store selling really expensive ski equipment. And I thought, I've told this story on the show before, but maybe there's 4 people who are listening that are new. I thought that if I could just share everything I knew about that equipment, all the data, all of the details about it, I just kept on talking about how much I knew, I would earn that person's trust, and that they would have to want to buy from me because they would think, this guy knows everything about this stuff. And what I realized was I wasn't selling anything because I was giving them too many choices and too much
the paradox of choice.
Sometimes it's better.
Paradox of choice.
Sometimes it's better to just say, based on what you've told me, here's 3 things about this ski. Buy this
Roger
one.
will appreciate this. I did that the early days as a financial planner. Exactly, Doug, what you're talking about. Roger, I had a mentor tell me, he's like, you're showing people everything you know, which is why nobody's doing anything. Because I'm like, hey,
oh, totally. We're chopping up the onion, and they only want the first layer.
So I would say, so later on, when I got better at my job, I was like, hey, there's 15 things we could do here. I'm going to give you just the top 2. If you want to know why we don't do any of the other ones that I've considered, feel free to ask, but I'm just going to give you the top 2. And so I think we go this way, but an alternative is doing this. Give them 2 and you're done.
Right.
Yeah.
Another place that shows up, and I'll say corporate land, is you are trying to convince maybe some senior executives, maybe it's not a sales opportunity, it's just an internal thing. Hey, I think we should take this strategy, and you build the whole PowerPoint. It's 27 slides long, and the first 25 of them are all the buildup and all the reasons. You've lost them. They are not going to be there listening to you on slide number 27 when you make your recommendation.
And they're gone. And by the way, Doug, you got to learn when to shut up right now, because we got to get on to the trivia. So
well, then you do the freaking trivia, Joe. Good luck with that.
Roger, I'm sorry. Did you have something there before we?
I thought we had to shut up.
Have to shut up, but you were starting to say something, I think.
I think what this article is really about is compound interest when it comes to habits, right? And I think of like the Rock Retirement Club roundup that we just had. There were 200 people that had great habits of saving and self-denial and working and denying themselves, that are now at the point that they have the resources and lots of options. So they're the end of that compounding of all of those great habits. And what will happen with these good habits of doing hard things is that you actually enjoy it. You enjoy seeing your bank accounts move up because you've been saving. And you actually have to sort of get to the point where sort of what Doug was saying is, at some point you have to relax and enjoy it. And it's a little bit hard because those muscles are so well developed that you can't stop.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that, and we're doing a series now on wisdom for our children, and it's around this compounding of do hard things now so you can give your future self some better options.
I want to ask in the second half of this discussion, all of you, about what some of those things are that maybe around learning about money that pay the biggest compounding interest. Like, what are those things you can teach yourself about money that will really go further? And then last, I'm also going to want to talk about some of the tough things you guys are doing now, because I know that even though you all live in cushy worlds, I know you're not that type of person. You're all still out there pushing stuff. But before we get to that, we have this incredibly important centerpiece of our show, which is the year-long trivia competition between our three frequent contributors. Len Penzo. Len has the day off, and Roger, you are our guest who is going to be on Team Len. And then OG was going to be here. Thank God he's not, because we got the far better Carl Jensen today from Mile High Fi. Carl, you are Team OG. OG's son sadly broke his collarbone and is having surgery. So we're all hoping for the best for OG and his son and their family. And but Carl, you're playing on behalf of OG, and Paula is playing for herself, which is the amazing thing here. Is that Paula went to Scotland and last week, filling in for her, it was amazing. Heidi Dusek scored a point, Paula, for you.
Yes. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you, Heidi.
Which means, Len and Carl, here's what's going on. Carl, OG is the two-time reigning champion. Len won the 2 years before that. Len is in first with 14. Paula somehow is in second with 13. Paula's never in second for people new to the show. She's usually in last. Brilliant, except for when it comes to trivia. But this year, brilliant even at trivia. And then OG, our two-time champion, Carl, is in last place with 12. So 14, 13, 12. So will Carl help OG move back into a tie with Paula? Can Roger help Len pull away with only a few weeks to go? Can Paula force a tie for first place, which would be so weird this late in the year? We're about to find out. But Doug, we need a trivia question. So what do we got on tap this week?
Well, we sure do, Joe. But just to be clear, I need to know this. So Carl is on the loser team, right? So he gets to guess last.
Yes.
Right? Right, that's
which
the
is also good. It's
sucking.
Carl's first time here, so he gets to the benefit of hearing everybody else.
All right, so Carl, get ready for this really succinct. It's quick. Listen carefully because you might miss it. Hey there, stackers! I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. Just after midnight tonight, we'll get the first glimpse of the hunter's moon. Without reality television to help pass the time, ancient Babylonians were so bored that they began vigorously tracking the moon cycles around 750 BC. It was the women of Babylonia, I have to assume, that quickly noticed the moon waxed and waned in a 29-day cycle. Back in 1894 BC, the Babylonians connected patterns of stars in the sky to create the 12 signs of the zodiac, probably to make tons of Benjamins off the hot new online psychic industry that's coming up. For any ladies out there wondering about our compatibility, I'm a Libra with a Scorpio rising. And I like long walks. Anyway, while the belief in astrology is most widespread across Asia, people all over the world take comfort in following their horoscope, especially during times of crisis. Knowing that, it makes a lot more sense that Joe's mom called me the cancer of the neighborhood after I accidentally chopped down her lilac bushes. Today's trivia question is, see, I told you it was quick, what percentage of Americans check their horoscope every day? I'll be back right after I read up on the traits of Leo so I can learn more about Joe's mom.
Very important mission Doug's on. But we start with Roger. Unfortunately, you have to go first here. You check your horoscope every day, Roger?
I do not. Do you
think you don't?
No, I do not.
Could have seen what a lucky day it was for you today.
To be here with you.
Checked. That's right.
Len, I'm sorry. I don't think I've ever won a point for somebody as a stand-in. So I'm going to make that disclaimer. So I have to give a percentage of what number of people check their horoscope every day.
You think it's a lot? You think it's
I'm
a lot?
going to say no, I think it's in the 40s. I'm going to say it's 45%.
Okay. That's almost half.
Yeah, I guess it's almost half. I'm not good with numbers.
That's why he's a successful financial planner. Not good with numbers. Paula, You think Roger's high or low?
I think he's very high. I half the U.S. population to do anything every day is I don't even shower every day. Right?
Carl thinks about me in the shower every day.
That was out loud, Paula. You know that, right?
Oh, Doug, by the way, I am also a Libra. I don't know what my rising is, but I am a Libra.
Nice. I knew it. So balanced and even keeled you are.
Exactly. I would say 5%.
Wow.
That's like
Carl, they gave you wide berth. We got 5 and 45. Holy crap, Carl.
Yeah, and I'm so happy because my number was kind of right in between those. I was thinking, I'm just going to go. Is this like Price is Right rules where
it is not? Okay, it's just closest. Yeah.
Okay, so I can't screw Robert by saying like 44%.
Do that strategy still all the time.
I'm going to say 22%. I'm going to go right in the middle there, sort of.
22, right in the middle. So we got 45. We got 22. We got 5. Who's right? We'll let you know in just a minute. Roger, you kicked this off by saying 45%. You got your arms in the air for people not watching us on YouTube.
Winner. You're not calling me out as a winner?
Oh, I'm not. Okay. I'm asking you how confident you are, but with your arms in the air, you must think you're pretty confident.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm very confident in myself.
Paul, are you confident that Roger's wrong?
I am. I'm feeling good about my answer. Just to check your horoscope every day, that's a big commitment.
Well, and Carl, you got the middle ground there at 25%? Was that your guess?
22%.
22%. Yes.
Oh, that hurts.
Feeling good?
I do. I'm feeling good. I'll give myself a 48% chance of winning.
What do you give Roger's chance of winning?
2. Sorry, Roger. I like you.
So that means you're giving Paula like a 53% chance of winning, if my math is right?
Sure.
Well, thank you.
Let's see how those statistics work out. Doug, who's our champion here?
Hey there, stackers. I'm Libra and part-time psychic, Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug. People often turn to astrology to help them answer life's impossible questions like, what's up with all of my electronics lately? And how the hell did Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, get to be so damn sexy? While many people think their respective star signs set the foundation of their personalities, most people believe the same moon that controls the tides doesn't really have any effect on them personally. But me, I only use my horoscope and Miss Cleo for major investing decisions. But since she passed away in 2016, the medium and seance fees are killing my budget. Today's trivia question was, what percentage of Americans check their horoscope every day? The answer is, according to the Washington Post, while roughly 30% of Americans believe in astrology, 29.2% fewer people than what Roger guessed check their horoscope, 15.8% more than what Paula guessed check their horoscope, but just 2.8% less than what Carl guessed checked their horoscope. I know you're trying to do your math in your head, and it looks like that scene from Good Will Hunting. I'll just give you the answer. 20.8% of people check their horoscopes every day. Can you believe that? That means Carl is our answer and our winner.
Yes.
Congratulate Carl's first appearance, and he knocks it out of the park. You almost nailed it, Mr. Jensen.
That was close.
Yeah, it was pure luck.
No, you say it's pure brilliance. You got to come on here and get some bravado.
I should check my horoscope today. Apparently, it might be my lucky day. Go buy one of those mega ball tickets.
Yeah.
Apparently.
That minimum wage intern who wrote your horoscope today probably knew what they were talking about.
I think it's probably just ChatGPT nowadays.
Right now it is. Yeah, that's right.
Well, I do know something in the horoscope, and that the horoscope's telling me that we're going on to the second half of the show, apparently. And the second half of the show is brought to you by depositaccounts.com. Mr. Roger Whitney, you know what happens when you go to depositaccounts.com?
What happens?
You don't know. you find that you can compare more than 275,000 deposit rates from over 11,000 banks and credit unions to do it all for free. They post right on the front page what the current rates are. Listen to this. We're recording a little bit before you hear this, so make sure you go to deposit accounts yourself to check it out. But the national average as we record this in savings accounts, 0.47% is the national average. The top 1% of savings accounts, though, in the country, averaging 4.92. Big difference between the top 1% and the national average. Comes to one-year CDs, national average 3.94 for a one-year CD. Top 1% average 5.72%. How do you find out more? Go to depositaccounts.com and you can look at more than 275,000 deposit rates. Click on the one you like, and bada boom, bada bang, you're in the top 1%. How about that, Roger?
That's impressive. It's so nice to have normal interest rates. Well,
isn't it?
At least for
it's like
cash,
back in the day.
Everything else,
yes.
For cash.
I just remember for so long we were hovering around 5% for interest rates, and then for a while there were like, yeah, you're earning 0.0004, right?
Yeah.
By the way, that's also the reason why it's better right now to be somebody with money than somebody with debt, because if you've got debt, man, interest rates through the roof. Hey, we're going to let's talk about some of the tough financial things in your life, things that seem tough, but you think that they pay real dividends. Paula, let's start with you. What is a skill that our stacker community should really try to learn if they don't know it? Because, man, it seems tough, but it's going to pay off forever.
So, writing well. A lot of people mistakenly believe that they can do so because a lot of people believe that if they are literate, that means they know how to write. In fact, they don't. And to be able to write well, even in the era of ChatGPT, is an important skill and an incredibly difficult skill to master.
And what's funny about that is if you don't think you write well, another great skill is showing it to somebody else before you send it out.
Right. Well,
because we had, when I was at American Express, we had a group vice president who could not spell and would never run it by anybody. And he made himself look far worse than he ever knew.
Right.
Because he, while he was competent, he seemed very incompetent. Every time you read his memo, you're like, what is this guy doing?
Right. Well, often if you see somebody who doesn't write well, the assumption is they probably don't read very much. And maybe that's a fair assumption. Maybe it's not. But broadly speaking, poor writing, at least in many people's minds, seems to correlate with a lack of reading. And a lack of reading is an indicator that this person is not a lifelong learner.
Yeah. And I think the big takeaway there is sadly people are judging you, right?
Yeah.
Which is sad, but people just naturally do. Carl, what's a tough, I was hoping for, Paula gave me a life skill. I was actually talking about money skills.
Oh,
maybe that is a money skill too, Paula.
Sorry.
But Carl, either one, go the Paula route and ignore my question, or
you didn't specify. You just said skill.
I thought I did say money skill. Maybe I was just thinking it.
You said it before the break. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Back in the day. Memory is also a skill.
Either one, though, Carl. I like where Paula's going, and I like my original question. So you choose which one's best for you.
Well, I'm going to do both of them. So my first one is how to use Google search engines and YouTube effectively, because any information you want is out there. So if anything breaks in your life, like you could have a washing machine from 25 years ago, and if that sucker breaks and no one's there to fix it, I guarantee you, there's someone out there who has published a YouTube video on how to fix that. And on top of that, to build on that a little bit, just have a little bit of self-sufficiency and lack of fear to fix things when they go wrong in your life, so you don't have to be as dependent as other people. Even if you hate fixing stuff, doing brakes on cars or things like that, you might have to resort to those skills at some point. And if you do find out you like it, you can make tons of money from it. Like a kitchen remodel can cost you $50,000 or $75,000. I can do the same thing for like 15 or 20.
Starting, if you don't like to fix things, starting with the brakes on your cars is a place I wouldn't advise you to start.
Agreed.
Where I would start is, number one, learn about disability insurance. And then number two, learn about fixing brakes on cars. Yeah. Roger, what's a life skill slash money skill?
I really like Carl's. I just want to call that out. I really like that.
Yes.
Because it's
I
so
like both of
easy.
them. I like Paula's too.
Well, no, I didn't like that one. No. But Paul has inspired me to go more the universal skill than a specific money skill. And that is to collect amazing people. Mm-hmm. And you actually do this really well, Joe. Mm-hmm. But if you want to see where your life is going.
He was complimenting himself there. That was smooth, dude. Respect.
Doug is very observant. No, well, Joe is good at this. If you want to see where you're going to be going in life, if you start to look around with who you hang out with most of the time and look at their lives and see what's happening, that's likely who you're going to be. And if you can, it can be trite nowadays, but there are a lot of rules of the 5 people you hang out with. But the other part of it is, if you do this authentically, those things will pay dividends in so many ways. I have a really good friend who is C-level at a private equity firm. And throughout his life, he keeps in touch with amazing people. And I've seen job opportunities and his financials flourish, but also his life flourishes. I mean, he keeps in touch with other CEOs, but he also keeps in touch with the lady who ran the kitchen in the Marriott that he would go to every week. He just loves good people that are curious. And I think that skill will help you obviously personally, but I think it will help you immensely financially if you can collect good people and stay in touch with them and just love on them in an authentic way. I think that's something that we fail to do a lot.
Carl, you're nodding your head.
No, I think that's so good. And I'm thinking of that, Roger. One thing I really try to do in my own life is to remember people's first names. So everyone says, "Oh, I'm bad at remembering names."
You called me Robert earlier?
So everyone likes to say I'm bad at remembering names, but I don't think anyone is bad at it. They just don't try hard. So when I meet someone, I repeat it a couple times, and then when I meet them again, I'm like, "Hey, Mike," or whatever their name is, Robert, Roger, and they're usually impressed by that, and it sets you a little bit apart, and then you can collect good people in your life just by making a little bit of effort, little tricks like that.
Carl, I'm certainly makes you right it easier here on my shelf. I've just collected you.
Well, let's do the second round, which was the question I was hoping for. I love the skills that you guys gave, but let me tell you the type of stuff I was talking about. The traditional money stuff. So as an example, I think that more technical asset allocation pays tons of dividends, and it seems very technical and very difficult. And it's not. It truly is far easier than people think that it is. And it's the kind of thing, Roger, well, actually, Carl, it's close to what you're talking about, where, you look at the YouTube video on the dishwasher and you think you can't fix it yourself. And then to your point, like you said earlier, once you get in there, you realize, oh, I can do this. And, people hear terms like efficient frontier and you think, I can't do that. There's nothing. And it's so much easier than the big words that we use. So that's a skill I'm thinking of. Paula, let's go back to you for this one. What's a traditional money skill that pays big dividends, that feels hard?
Pays big dividends. So actually, Joe, I learned this one from you. Timelining your goals and then just doing the basic arithmetic of how much is this going to cost? How many months from now or years from now do I want this? How much money do I have to save per month over the next X amount of time in order to reach this? And, you do that for every single goal, and then you add all of that up, and then you realize that's higher. That's like triple your salary, and then you start adjusting and cutting back and extending the timelines and dropping some. And, that practice it's actually not difficult to do. It's a little bit of planning, and it's 4th grade arithmetic, but most don't.
It's wild once you start playing with those levers. It's so fulfilling to know that you actually have realistic goals instead of this pie in the sky. Roger, what I like though about you, and you and I have talked about this a lot, was Paula's answer in a lot of ways is kind of the opposite of what you like. You like the ability, and this is hard. Dealing with uncertainty is okay, right? Being sure that there's no certainty in anything is a difficult place to be, but becoming comfortable with that is hard.
Yeah, well, we'll never be exonerated from uncertainty. And a lot of trouble that we get ourselves in is by trying to get exonerated from it. Because there are plenty of people that will sell you the solution to uncertainty or pain or the need to do hard work. But you can't be exonerated from any of those three things. And it's hard to accept that. It takes work.
Yeah. Which one were you thinking of?
Actually, the one I was thinking of, I stole from Paula. I forget how many, it was years ago that she was on my show. And she used a phrase, and there's only so much frugaling you can do, which is, obviously on the budgetary side, it's important to control slippage from how you spend. And her point, and she can correct me if I've been saying it wrong all these years, was if you think of levers, you have this dashboard. Yes, budget is a lever of controlling cost, but you have another lever that is a lot bigger that's set on a much more powerful fulcrum, which is increasing your income.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then even if you're in a corporate job, you can be creative in how you can increase your income. And that's where the real opportunity for a lot of people is.
Mm-hmm.
Did I get that right, Paula?
Yeah, 100%. Excellent.
It sounded awesome. So just say yes, no matter what, because I would take credit for that. Totally.
Spot on. Got it right.
Yeah, too bad,
Mr. Jensen.
I bought the URL. You should have bought that when you said it, but I got it.
I think I'm going to tweet your E times F times win to the power of C. That's
it's so awesome.
Yeah. I'm stealing that one from you.
When I saw, I've known Roger, I've known you for quite a while now, but it was at Camp Phi when I've noticed that on your forearm for the first time. And
just got it in February.
Oh, did you? No wonder I hadn't seen it before. Yeah. Yes. All that time we spent naked together.
We did room together.
In the shower.
Come on.
We did room together.
We did room together at Camp Phi.
I was the big spoon.
Carl, you got the last word here to get us off that uncomfortable point. What's a money skill?
Yeah, I'll tell you a little bit of a story first. I met some guy over the weekend who, I'll back up a second. I got a chip in my windshield. I paid this guy $75 to fix it. And I looked up the kit he was using, and the kit was $300 that you could buy from Amazon. So while he was fixing my window, I said, "Is this a good business?" He's like, "You have no idea. It's so good. But I make so much money from this." I'm like, "That's pretty cool." So my tip is, I think a lot of people underestimate themselves. There's always something you could do outside of your normal job, especially if you're younger and not tied down to make money. For example, just look at real estate. We did live and flipping, and that was great for us, but you don't have to do that. You can do a house hack where you've got roommates. You can do an Airbnb property. You can be a traditional landlord. So I would suggest people do a lot of experimenting and figure out where their sweet spot is, like find the Venn diagram of making money and something that you actually enjoy doing. It might not be easy, but it's worthwhile. This window guy, he's loaded, and $300 kit from Amazon. So there you go.
You know what I love about that story too? And I think this is a great skill that all of you guys have. Ask that question. I mean, is this a great business? Like, that's a question that I never ask. And I'm just thinking, just asking that person that one simple question opens up so many doors.
Yes.
Good stuff. We're going to leave it right there. People want to dive more into this piece. I thought it was a wonderful piece. I don't know what you guys thought about, but DariusFarrow.com. We'll link to it on our show notes page at stackingbenjamins.com. Let's find out what's going on where all of you work. But before that, it is time for our community back porch. This is where we have some fun sitting out on the back porch. We, by the way, recorded a little bit earlier a little back porch stuff where we were talking about how Gen Z people talk. Steve, for today's back porch, do you mind just running kind of the pre-show banter we had going on about that?
Video where they sort of translate teen text talk. It's well done. And then at the end of it, you see him like doing the making of, and he's running it by his two kids, getting their approval for the script. It's pretty funny.
It's good.
It's pretty funny. Look for it.
Got it
I've
right.
had to do that with a couple of Instagram captions. I've had to run it by some Gen Z friends.
Yeah.
We have
I found out Gen Z
Kate in our
starts-
meetings.
Say it again.
Yeah,
But she's more of a millennial.
she is.
Hmm.
She's
Yeah, millennials are outdated now.
right. Yeah,
Totally
they're
outdated.
So not cool.
Mhm.
Gen Z, the youngest Gen Z now is 13. That's
Wow.
how it goes from like 13 to 26. I think my kids are the first year. My oldest
Oh my
is the
God.
first year of Gen Z, and that goes all the way down to 13-year-olds.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and millennials
know.
are 27 to 42,
Wow,
right?
Yeah, my kids
That's
are on
not
the
cool.
trail end of that.
that is not cool.
I feel old.
I know.
Carl's part of the greatest generation. Tell me what Iwo Jima was like, Carl.
I can't understand my kids. I made dinner last night, and the younger one is like, "Hey, Dad, this food is bussin'." I'm like, "Is that a compliment or are you insulting me?" Like, I don't know which one. Apparently, it was a compliment.
Oh, I thought busting was like they have to bust the table afterwards and throw it away.
That's what I thought too. They were complaining about chores even before I got to it, but no, it was a compliment. Frozen orange Costco chicken is good, apparently.
Oh, that
Apparently.
stuff is fire. That's lit.
It's lit.
Look at her in the back.
It's bussin'. Oh, there she is right there.
Bussin'.
There she is.
Yeah.
So why are you hissing like a snake?
Why am I hissing like a snake? This is the one who said the food was bussin'.
It was bussin'.
Oh,
Dad, you're embarrassing the whole family.
yeah. I'm no longer bussin' after this.
No, no. Now
You
you're
never were. It was the
tricycling.
orange
You're
chicken.
tricycling now.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're walking. I don't know. What's
I'm
the
fussing.
Roger? That clearly wasn't a lit conversation.
I'm sticking with that word. Those kids love that word.
You,
And Carl, maybe we could, is this conversation bussin'? I still don't know what bussin' means.
It's bussin', and it is bomb, which I think means it's good too, right? You ever hear kids say bomb? It is
sure.
bomb.
bomb is so
I say bomb.
outdated.
I know.
I thought bombs were bad things. I don't want to have bombs in my normal life.
No,
party
that's
life.
right.
But the
Yeah.
term bomb is so outdated. Now it's like dead ass. You know, that's what everyone says.
No cap.
We've had some reviews that say that this show bombed. I take that back. It's this show is the bomb.
There you
yeah.
Mm,
Isn't it funny? Intonation is everything there.
It's-
It can be.
It's giving old guy.
Is that what I'm doing right now, Paula? Is that what you're saying?
It's giving. Yeah.
Oh my God. All right. I think that's a great place to leave it. Let's find out what's going on with all of you today. We'll start with you, Paula. What's going on at the Afford Anything podcast?
Oh, at the Afford Anything podcast, Joe, you join me every other week to answer questions.
Brilliant.
Exactly.
Brilliant.
To be brilliant, to be absolutely brilliant and answer questions that come from our community. We also recently we had on Dr. Virgie Bright Ellington. She is a physician who talks about how to handle your medical bills. So if you get a bill in the mail, like an expensive medical bill, what do? She talks, kind of walks through step by step. Here's how to read a bill. Here's how to negotiate the bill. Never pay that first bill. So that is all on the Afford Anything podcast. Oh,
I love that topic, and talk about something that seems hard that I think that once you know, it's like riding a bike, right?
right.
Once you know how to read the bill, that's a skill you're going to have forever.
Right. Exactly. So yeah,
The
a
other
lot
thing
of it just don't be intimidated by it. So
By the way, the other thing, what is her name again?
Dr. Virgie Bright Ellington.
I want that name when I grow up. That is just an awesome name.
It is a
Dr.
fan-
Virgie Bright Ellington.
Yeah.
Like, she sounds intelligent.
Yeah.
Just her name.
It's a
Fairly sure
fantastic
she was in a Jane Austen novel. I'm pretty sure.
I think she might have been. And that's at the Afford Anything podcast, or Finer podcast.
Yeah, you can find us on
Our
YouTube.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Roger Whitney, now that you're decompressing from an awesome rockin' retirement party, whatever it is you call the phenomenal meetup you have for people who are rocking retirement, what's going on at the Retirement Answer Man show?
Well, let's see. We're opening up enrollment to the Rock Retirement Club on October 26th because we bring people in cohorts so they can create a retirement plan of record. So that's going on right now. Our series is Wisdom for Our Children, and we've collected from our audience and club members wisdom of what we wish our younger self would have known about love and family and money and career. So we're going through that and putting together a resource that we can hand to our kids or someone younger, because we know they don't listen to us. So we thought maybe they'd hear somebody else.
That's fabulous. And by the way, the 26th was yesterday when this came out, Roger.
Awesome.
So
well, we're open.
It's
for
available
another 3
now.
or 4 days.
Yeah. So get on it. That's the Retirement Answer Man podcast, where finer podcasts are distributed. Carl, it's about damn time, and I'm so happy you were available. When we heard from OG, I'm like, we got to get Carl here, and thank God you were available.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. This was super fun.
Well, let's talk about what happens in the Mile High Fi Club, because it might be different.
Well, I'm actually going to be talking about showers because my life is just about to take a huge pivot after 2 decades of home improvement. I'm looking up right now because the shower I tested like literally 1 hour ago is above me, and it is not raining, which is pretty good. That's successful so far. But the other thing I've realized is happiness, I think, is one of the hardest things that some of us have to work on. And we're going to have a 3-part series on that coming up, because I thought early retirement and financial independence would just make me happy. It would rain beer and unicorns and rainbows. And then it didn't. And I learned that I have to create happiness from the inside. And it took me a long time to figure that out and to figure out some of the basics of it. So we look forward to talking about that. And
Awesome.
Hopefully not rainy ceilings.
No, and you and your co-host, Doug Cunnington, you guys always have the best conversations. So it's so cool, so entertaining. Like, you guys like to laugh, but you also like to get in the weeds, which I appreciate.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Yeah, fantastic. It's not the Mile High Fi Club, although you got to start that. It's the Mile High Fi podcast. Again, where finer podcasts are distributed. Doug, you got it from here, man. Man, there was a lot to learn today, but what are our top 3?
No, I figured it out. I got it all boiled right down here. First, take some advice from Robert Whitney and the gang. Doing hard activity. Is that right? I think you nailed it. Doing hard activities can make life's downward moments seem like a cakewalk. You know, I know people say cakewalk, but what the hell is that? Anyway, when we find out, I seriously want a piece of that cake. Second, consider teaching yourself to be handy around the house. Sure, it's difficult, but not only can you save yourself a ton of money, you could also turn your new skills into a side gig. But the big lesson? Don't tell Joe's mom about all the bad traits of Leo's, even if you're trying to explain to her that it's not her fault that she's bossy. Thanks to Roger Whitney for joining us today. You can find more of Roger at... Wait, Roger? Your name's Roger?
Yeah.
Damn. Okay. All right, we'll run with it. You can find more of Roger at rogerwhitney.com, or you could listen to Roger at the Retirement Answer Man podcast, wherever you're listening right now. We'll also include links in our show notes at stackingbenjamins.com. Thanks to Paula Pant for hanging out with us today. You'll find her fabulous podcast, Afford Anything, wherever you listen to finer podcasts. And thanks also to Carl Jensen from the Mile High Fi podcast. You'll find the Mile High Fi podcast where you're listening to my dulcet tones right now. This show is the property of SB Podcasts, LLC, copyright 2023, and is created by Joe Saul-Sehy. Our producer is Karen Repine. This show was written by Lisa Curry, who's also the host of the Long Story Long podcast, with help from me, Joe, and Doc G from the Earn and Invest podcast. Kevin Bailey helps us take a deeper dive into all the topics covered on each episode in our newsletter called The 201. You'll find the 411 on all things money at The 201. Just visit stackingbenjamins.com/201. Wonder how beautiful we all are? Of course, you'll never know if you don't check out our YouTube version of this show, engineered by Tina Eichenberg. Then you'll see once and for all that I'm the best thing that ever happened to this show. Once we bottle up all this goodness, we ship it to our engineer, the amazing Steve Stewart. Steve helps the rest of our team sound nearly as good as I do right now. Want to chat with friends about the show later? Of course you do. Mom's friend Gertrude and Kate Youngkin are our social media coordinators, and Gertrude is the room mother in our Facebook group called The Basement. So say hello when you see us posting online. To join all the basement fun with other stackers, type stackingbenjamins.com/basement. Not only should you not take advice from these nerds, don't take advice from people you don't know. This show is for entertainment purposes only. Before making any financial decisions, speak with a real financial advisor. I'm Joe's mom's neighbor, Doug, and we'll see you next time back here at the Stacking Benjamin Show.